If you have a job interview coming up in 2026, there is a very high chance you are going to be asked at least one question about AI, even if the role itself has nothing to do with technology. And the way most candidates answer these questions is quietly costing them the job, because they have not actually thought through what the interviewer is really trying to find out. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 AI-related interview questions that are showing up across almost every industry right now. Explain exactly what the interviewer is testing for with each one, and give you a strong example, answer you can adapt to your own experience. This applies whether you are interviewing for a marketing role, a finance position, a teaching job, or a technical position. The underlying skill being tested is almost always the same. Let's get into all 5. Question 1 is some version of, how do you currently use AI in your work? This has become one of the most common opening questions in interviews across every sector, and it has replaced a question that used to be far more generic. Employers are no longer simply asking if you are comfortable with technology. They are asking specifically whether you have already integrated AI tools into your actual workflow, because that tells them how much onboarding and training you will need. The mistake most candidates make is either overstating their experience in a way that sounds rehearsed or underselling genuinely useful habits, because they assume using AI tools casually does not count as real experience. Both responses fall flat with an experienced interviewer. The strong approach is specific and honest. Describe 1 or 2 concrete examples of how you use AI in your actual work, including the tool, the task, and the outcome. Something like, I use Claude regularly to help me draft and refine reports, which has cut my preparation time for client meetings by roughly a third. I also use it to stress test my own thinking before a big decision, asking it to challenge my assumptions. This kind of answer is specific, credible, and demonstrates that you treat AI as a genuine working tool, rather than a buzzword you feel obligated to mention. If you are genuinely new to using AI tools, the honest version of this answer is still strong. Be direct that you are early in building this skill. Name 1 or 2 tools you have started exploring, and describe what you are doing to build competence quickly. Employers respect a clear, proactive answer far more than a vague or exaggerated one. Question 2 is some version of, tell me about a time AI gave you the wrong answer, or a mistake you made using AI. This question is designed to test something specific, your judgment and your honesty, not your technical skill. The interviewer already assumes that AI tools sometimes produce incorrect, incomplete, or misleading outputs. What they want to know is whether you caught it, how you caught it, and what you did next. The mistake most candidates make is claiming they have never had an issue with AI output, which signals either dishonesty or a worrying lack of critical engagement with the tools they claim to use. A confident, well-prepared answer does the opposite. It demonstrates that you actively verify AI output rather than accepting it uncritically. A strong answer follows this structure. Describe a specific situation where an AI tool produced something inaccurate or incomplete. Explain how you identified the problem, and describe what you did to correct it. For example, I once asked an AI tool to summarize a long financial report, and it confidently stated a percentage that did not match the source data. Because I always cross-check anything with hard numbers against the original source, I caught the discrepancy before it went into a client document. Now I always verify any AI-generated figures line by line before using them. This answer does more work than almost any other you can give in the entire interview, because it demonstrates exactly the kind of critical thinking employers are most anxious about losing as AI becomes more embedded in everyday work. Question 3 is some version of, How do you think AI will change this role over the next few years? This question is rarely about testing your technical forecasting ability. It is testing whether you think strategically about your own field and whether you are someone who adapts proactively rather than reactively. The mistake most candidates make is either giving a vague, generic answer about AI changing everything or veering into anxious speculation about job losses. Neither demonstrates the strategic thinking the interviewer is looking for. The strong approach is to identify one or two specific, plausible changes relevant to the actual role you are interviewing for, and frame your answer around how you would adapt to and benefit from those changes. For a marketing role, you might say, I think AI will continue to compress the time it takes to produce a first draft of campaign content, which means the value of a marketer increasingly comes from strategic judgment, brand voice, and audience insight rather than production speed. I have been deliberately building those skills because I see them as where my value will be most differentiated going forward. This kind of answer signals that you have thought seriously about your own career trajectory, which is one of the strongest signals an employer can receive about a candidate's long-term potential. Question 4 is some version of, how do you verify or fact-check information that comes from an AI tool? This question often comes from more senior or technically minded interviewers, and it is specifically testing your critical thinking process. The mental habits you apply, not just whether you happen to catch errors occasionally. The mistake most candidates make is giving a vague answer like, I always double-check things, without describing an actual process. A strong answer names a specific, repeatable method. Here is a structure that works well. Explain that you treat AI output as a draft rather than a finished answer. Describe at least one specific verification habit you use, such as cross-referencing factual claims against a primary source, or asking the AI tool itself to explain its reasoning and checking that reasoning for gaps. And give a brief example of applying that habit in practice. For example, whenever AI generates a summary involving specific figures or dates, I treat those details as unverified until I trace them back to the original source. For more subjective outputs like written analysis, I ask myself whether the reasoning would hold up if I had to defend it to a senior colleague. This kind of structured, repeatable process is exactly what separates candidates who use AI thoughtfully from candidates who use it carelessly. And interviewers can tell the difference immediately. And question 5, the one that catches the most candidates off guard, is some version of, are you worried that AI will replace your role? This is a deliberately uncomfortable question, and it is testing your composure and your perspective under a slightly adversarial framing, not actually asking for your honest fear level. The mistake most candidates make is either dismissing the question too quickly, which can read as naive, or becoming visibly anxious, which signals insecurity about their own value. Both responses undermine confidence in your candidacy. The strong approach acknowledges the question honestly while reframing it around adaptation rather than anxiety. Something like, I think AI will continue to change what this role looks like, the same way it has changed many roles already. My approach is to stay ahead of that change rather than be caught by it, which is part of why I have been building AI literacy deliberately rather than waiting until it becomes unavoidable. I see it as an opportunity to become more valuable, not a threat to be feared. This answer demonstrates exactly the mindset employers are hoping to find. Someone who engages with uncertainty calmly and proactively, rather than someone who either ignores the question or is destabilized by it. All 5 of these questions are testing variations of the same underlying quality. Whether you engage with AI thoughtfully, critically, and proactively, rather than either ignoring it or using it uncritically. Prepare specific, honest, concrete examples for each one. Practice saying them out loud, and you will be noticeably more prepared than the majority of candidates you are competing against. The AI Proof, your career guide in the description, has the complete framework for building genuine AI literacy, including the task audit worksheet and the prompting cheat sheet that will help you develop the kind of specific examples these interview answers need. Subscribe for new videos every Monday and Thursday, and drop a comment below. Which of these 5 questions would be hardest for you to answer right now?